look out for it. And looks like, oh, it's giving us a 2-minute countdown to say that we're live.
What's a 2-minute countdown? Well, we've now got a 2-minute countdown.
Well, it's just saying this event
So
will
we're not
begin at
live?
1 minute 40. Oh, fucking hell, cat! That's probably just the delay.
Are we live? Are we live? Yeah.
Nice. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's great content. Right, Cat,
Yeah, well.
I'm going to launch you. Go away. Bless his little... Yeah, cottons. Right. Should we go for this?
Yeah, why not?
Why not, eh? Hello, YouTube.
Hello, YouTube.
No, I haven't done anything.
Be next season.
Haven't started recording.
Oh, it stopped.
Yeah, I haven't started
recording. Well done. Well done.
At least I remembered.
Got it.
I remembered this time. Right.
Well, that'll screw you up because you'll try and match those claps up together now.
Yeah, we'll be alright.
Is that Glock going slowly? It is, it's Glock!
It is, it's Glock.
It's Glock.
Oh, God! Michael Schumacher hits David Coulthard and is out!
Is the Glock gun then named after a person? Who knows?
I very much doubt it.
Oh!
Not after him, but after a person.
Might be.
Some
Hi,
American
everyone.
to tell us.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Definitely. We're debating whether the Glock gun was named after anyone in particular, not specifically Timo Glock. But yes, that's our debate. Apologies in advance now for our audio quality for today. I'll let Carl explain to you why we have bad audio.
So I'm I'm currently stuck in a room on my own and have been for the last 5 days, 6 days possibly. I don't know. It feels so long ago because I've got COVID, and I managed to leave my headphones up in Dublin. So I found out. I went to work at 6 o'clock on Wednesday morning, and and we get tested every couple of days. Got tested and got told to drive on home. Jesus Christ, I've never felt tiredness like it. I came home and slept for 17 hours.
Nice.
So have you had COVID?
If I have, I've never displayed symptoms. I think I had one day right at the start of COVID, when it was just before they went into the first national lockdown in the UK. I had one day where I felt absolutely rotten, and people were saying, "Oh, have you got COVID?" But none of the symptoms were COVID related. But I just felt really, really bad. But it was only for about 12 hours, maybe 18 hours at a push.
Oh yeah, and that's sort of what it's like. Like I keep going back as positive, even though nothing is. No, I feel all right. I feel like I've got a bit of a weird voice.
You've always got.
So a weird voice. I sound slightly weird. Yeah, but I sound like slightly more masculine today, and I don't quite know why, because my voice doesn't hurt. It feels like trying to push my voice out of my lungs is lowering. It's weird. But so I don't quite know. But apart from that, I don't really. I'm just bored of. I've been working. It's like I haven't stopped working, because I'm just bored of being sort of stuck in that.
So what, are you still working when you're at home then?
Yeah. Doing all the moving orders and plans and everything.
Oh, okay.
And scouting for a fast zone. I've been working. I haven't been just sat enjoying my time off, because that would be far too simple.
That's a shame.
But I think I would have gone slightly mad anyway. There's only so much crap TV you can watch. Anyway, we better crack it on. Love Island's on at 9.
Oh, can't believe you watch Love Island. Cannot believe you watch Love Island. Cool. Well,
how are you anyway? How's your week?
I'm all right. My week's been all right. I've managed to piss off a genuine racing driver, so that was fun. become Twitter famous
So-
overnight. Hashtag butthey is going to be
Butthey.
going around.
But hey,
Yeah. So basically, for context,
but I like, but hey, like it's
yeah.
even the wrong hay. It's
Yeah,
like,
I know. There was a reason for
why
that.
why is he talking about grass hay?
Yeah, there was a reason for that. So basically,
Oh, was
how where to begin? I was quite tired last night, which is no excuse, and
Which is always the start of the story.
And,
Went hard last night.
I noticed while I was just kind of doom scrolling through Twitter that Scott McLaughlin had put a tweet out. By the way, I apologise to our American listeners because you're probably about to unsubscribe. But Scott McLaughlin put out a
Won't be the
tweet
first time.
which in the mood I was in wasn't really what I wanted to see. And to be honest, Scott McLaughlin's got 70,000 followers, and I don't really do Twitter. I mean, I tend to use Twitter for news and stuff, but I don't tend to post an awful lot. So I've not like I've got a big following. I've got, I don't even know how many followers I've got, probably about 150, 200, something like that. So basically like the smallest of small fry. So he's not going to give two shits what I think. But he put this tweet out about Carlos Sainz, and looking back now, it probably kind of rubbed me up the wrong way for wrong reasons. But it basically said that it took too long for the marshals to get to him during his fire, and thank God for IndyCar safety. Now, I kind of read that as him having a bit of a pop at Formula One and saying that IndyCar was so much better, which, you know, there's definitely pros to each series, and I love both series. Yeah. Formula One is the one closest to my heart because it's geographically closer and it's the one I've been following for a lot longer. So, you know, that's always going to be in my heart. But I do really enjoy IndyCar, and I've been watching the IndyCar. Yeah. I always watch the IndyCar. I've actually been cheering for Scott McLaughlin this year. But I saw that tweet and it just rubbed me up the wrong way a little bit. So I just replied to it, and I just put something along the lines of not really the time for your series versus my series, especially given some of the sketchy nature of some of the IndyCar circuits.
That's all that's right.
And he then quote replied me, basically completely misquoting me, saying about how the IndyCar safety team is the best in the world, and I should get my facts straight or something along those lines. I can't remember. And then it just kind of went a little bit viral, and there was 150 comments or something. When I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, I woke up to Philip Matthew from the Grip Strip pod send me a message saying, "Scotty replied to you, dude." And I'm like, what? So this is 4:30 in the morning. I look on Twitter, and sure enough, he's replied. I didn't have any notifications for it. I had to physically look for the tweet, so I never get notifications to say that I've been quoted or anything like that. So I had to physically look for the tweet. Found it. Saw all these comments, and it's basically people laying into me and saying how wrong I am and all this kind of stuff. And then I started replying to quite a few of them, just saying no, I've been completely misquoted here. This is my reasoning, and I stand by that reasoning because Formula One tracks are second to none in the world. There's very, very few IndyCar circuits that would meet the standards of Formula One. Indianapolis Motor Speedway being one of them. It's incredibly safe. But some of the road tracks... How do you know
what's happening with that car? Or how do you... there's so many levels of stuff in there that it doesn't even make any difference.
Yeah, in fairness to Scott, he was getting at the marshals, not the tracks. But what I was saying
even
was...
the marshals, I don't even think he was...
I was saying it just wasn't really great form to have a go at the marshalling, when you've got to get your own house in order first. Now, I know that the marshalling in IndyCar is phenomenal. They have the same team that goes to every race and all that. So so I kind of got a little bit misquoted and maybe kind of took his quote a little bit out of context. So I'm just the fact that you even replied to it, I just think, well, why are you even replying to that? I'm just why would you even waste your time on that? So again, he
wasted his time on you, Tom.
So we all
do.
Yeah. So I then sent another reply. Basically,
Jesus, keep digging, mate.
Look, well, again, I didn't think he'd reply to it, so I just saying you've completely misquoted me. That wasn't what I meant. I meant what I find sketchy is having exposed concrete walls in the braking area. That for me is the issue for me, and some tracks just don't live up to that. Whereas you don't tend to find that in Formula One. And loads of people came back again to that, saying, "Oh, what about Grosjean in Bahrain?" Well, firstly, that was an Armco barrier, and it was at a 45-degree angle to the track, of which it was a very bit of a freak collision, and also Grosjean got through it. It was an absolute freak accident, and he got through it. And And I also mentioned a couple of things about how there's been far too many drivers injured in IndyCar where they've crashed into concrete walls and things. And that was my point. I was not having a go at the marshalling at all. And then he came back again. And this time he'd taken a picture from, I think it was like Saudi Arabia or something like that. And he's saying, hey, look, this is a Formula One track. Hey, look, this is a braking zone. Hey, look, this is a concrete wall. I'm like, it's a fucking start-finish straight, you idiot. It's like you. So I was like, do you know what? He's got 70,000 followers. He's just gonna, no matter what he says, I'm just gonna get a tirade of hate. So I just put, look, at the end of the day,
you got trolled.
your fans are always gonna back you. Let's just agree to disagree. And then obviously the comments saying, oh yep, that's what everyone always says when they've lost the argument. I was like, I'm not gonna engage anymore. So I put, look, we just agreed to disagree. I'm still gonna watch IndyCar. I still love IndyCar, but hey. So that's the kind of thing I say a lot. Yeah, but hey. And at that moment, my predictive text decided to correct it to H-A-Y instead of H-E-Y. And then he replied to that with just, but hey. And then loads of people are putting pictures of like people throwing bales of hay. And so Philip Matthew said I should like start a hashtag but hey thing. So that should be my thing now. Hashtag but hey. So that's my new thing. Hashtag but hey if you want to have a go at me for something. That's the minimum. If you want to say I'm wrong, you have to put hashtag but hey or I will not reply. So...
Hashtag but
oh dear. So
that's going to be the title of this episode. Hashtag but hey.
So my least favourite Penske driver now is no longer the person I'm cheering for in the championship. He was probably like my second or third favourite to win the championship, and now I'm putting him like way down below. So oh well. Scott McLaughlin, I am not going to be getting a Christmas card from Scott McLaughlin. But do you know what? Before I move on from this,
Jesus, you keep going. Go on, off you go.
A guy with a stupid amount of following, yet he was enabling behaviour. He can see what his followers are doing, and yet he stands there and he enables it. It's like he should just completely shut it down. Not even shut it down, just ignore it. As the person that he is, in the position that he's in, he should be just ignoring that. Shouldn't be encouraging it. I know, but it's like, why was I so in his head? I just don't get it. It was, obviously, I was talking to Philip about it from Grip Strip Pod, and he basically said, well, it's obviously something that it's obviously like lit a touch paper with him for something. And although Phil didn't completely agree with my take, he did agree that Scott went far too far in what he said. But either way, that's fine. I don't hold grudges. It's fine. He's just not my favourite driver anymore. And he never was my favourite driver, to be fair. But he's just not, he's just not the person that I'll be cheering for, given that I know how petty he can be. But there we go. If we have any American listeners left... But hey, if we have any American listeners left, I apologise if I made any offence, and I do love your series despite what some people seem to think I've been saying on Twitter, which is not the case. I do love it. I watch every race. I don't watch every qualifying session, but I do tell them to watch every race, and I engage in. I find out what's going on. I listen to podcasts about it. Blah 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 blah. So I wouldn't call myself an expert.
Well, I don't. So I can care less.
Yes.
Right. There we go.
But anyway, moving into the world of Formula One, where people have absolutely zero chance of hitting concrete walls. So that's a brand new show.
They're burning themselves alive.
Yeah, so we prefer to barbecue our drivers instead of sending them into concrete walls.
Yeah.
We had a good race in Austria, another good race, 2 good races in a row. And
not as good as Silverstone.
No, not as good as Silverstone, but it was a decent race. It was a very decent race. So we're going to go through.
I've always liked Red Bull.
Yeah, it's. I think the new cars actually really help with this as well, because sometimes you kind of need reliability or weather to make it a brilliant race in Austria. Yeah. But this year it was a genuinely really good race. We had 5 cars attacking one corner,
and we had a bit of reliability and weather issues. Anyway.
Yeah, so it was definitely a good race, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So we're going to go through the drivers.
I swear it was going to rain at one point.
From the back. It looked like it might have done, but it was never really on the cards. So we'll start then. You're starting with Sergio Perez, correct?
I am.
Okay. Sergio Perez.
Unfortunate. Holding his wing there. There's nothing really that he could do about that, really. He wrong place, wrong time, I think.
Cool. That's my first talking point for later. We want to talk about.
Okay. Nicholas Latifi then for you. So.
Nicholas Latifi, was he in the race? Didn't really see him. When did he retire? I legit don't remember him retiring. Did he just pull into the pits?
Yeah, Yeah, yeah.
He didn't stop on track, did he? Yeah.
No, no.
Come down to earth again. Didn't qualify very well. Didn't race very well. Back down to earth, really. Back down to where that Williams is at the moment until he gets those upgrades. Hopefully in France. Okay. Carlos Sainz.
Sainzy. We all felt sorry for him. We all felt sorry for him. Although he would have only got second, he was never going to get pole.
Would he though?
Pole first. No,
Would
he would have got second.
You
He would have
reckon?
got
Okay.
second.
We can talk about that as well.
That Ferrari was definitely better, and even third, But yeah, Sainzy. I felt sorry for him. Once again, it's another car issue. Once again, Ferrari just want to screw themselves up. I don't know how they do it, but every race, Ferrari have to screw themselves out, and it wasn't strategy, so it's reliability. It's either one or the other. They must decide at the beginning, or do rock, paper, scissors at the beginning of a race and decide which one's going to screw up their driver this week. And yeah, we'll talk about that incident probably later on. But the car was fucking back. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, crack on, bar marshals. And how do they know it's on fire? They haven't got the cameras. We've got stood there watching them. Anyway.
Sebastian Vettel got to know the gravel very well, had a couple of spins in both the qualifying race and sprint, and got turfed off by Gasly, and then got a track limits violation right at the death, relegating him down to 17th and last on track. 1 lap down. Yay.
Tsunoda, did he get track limits? Everyone got track limits. It's like, you get track limits, you get track limits. I'm sure Tsunoda got track limit points as well, did he? Can't remember.
He may have got a penalty, yeah. I don't even
know how he ended up down there. I don't know what happened to him. No idea. Very boring.
Gasly, a poor racer again, as I said, turfing off Vettel, crashing with Hamilton in the sprints. Just another bad weekend, and just the fact that he came home ahead of Yuki Tsunoda just kind of is the only bright spark to his entire weekend. And AlphaTauri need to get something sorted, because them and Aston Martin are just on a bit of a free fall at the moment. AlphaTauri, bad day.
Yeah, I don't quite know what happened with you, because he was doing really well in the sprint, wasn't he?
Seems to have been doing okay, yeah.
But I don't know what happened to him to be down there. Something must happen to him. I felt something happened to him.
I don't think anything specific happened to him. I think that was just kind of his natural pace, which was a bit disappointing.
No, he definitely wasn't like Stroll.
Stroll went long. Well, we'll move on to Stroll. Stroll went long and was up into 5th place at one point. I think his strategy got him into a really strong position. He was running as high as maybe even 4th at one point, because he was one of the last people to stop, and getting him past all that gaggle of cars that were fighting with each other and losing time. And I think that's probably how he got high and how Zhou ended up behind him. But that's Lance Stroll. But still no points, just not enough pace in that car.
So obviously the Williams updates are doing better for Albon to be so high. Again, Albon, I don't know. Albon once again doesn't know how wide his car was, as we proved once again on the sprint race.
Yeah, with Norris.
Was it the sprint race?
Yeah, Norris.
With Norris. He has no idea how wide his car is once again. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. I said to Laura, Albon was like, and I was in a different fucking room for it. And I was like, oh, yeah, there we go. Albon's being his usual self. No fucking idea how wide his car is.
I still don't know where you get this from.
Old habits die hard. Old habits die hard. What do you mean? He has no idea. He just seems to just drive with his wheels flaring, doesn't care where they are, and just places them in between other car wheels constantly.
Okay.
He never just smashes into the back of someone or gets shunted from the front or something. He's always at the side, and he's always on the back wheel, smashing someone out.
Okay.
Trying to flip them over.
Okay. So Valtteri Bottas started from the pit lane. Actually, Valtteri Bottas started from the pit lane. I think yes, he did. And he had a good solid recovery. I thought up to 11th place, was in the points until the final lap. Just wasn't able to hold off Fernando Alonso. Strong race, and given that he's finished way ahead of his teammate as well, considering that he started in the pit lane and there was no full safety cars or anything, that's pretty good going. Good performance from Bottas. I reckon he had P6 in him today or Sunday.
Yeah. Had he started where he should have started.
Yeah, he had the pace for P6, I think.
Yeah. Alonso, I mean, another great, through the field, was up and down quite a bit, was there for a while, and some amazing racing going on between him. Who was it? The Haas, the two Haas's. Was it George as well? Ocon was it? I don't know who was in there.
Yeah, there was a whole gaggle of cars all together.
Gaggle of the rowing between
a school of cars.
So unfortunately, he did end up in 10th, and he probably could have done better. I don't quite know how.
Well, did you see
got ahead of him?
Did you see his double pit stop? That's what ruined it for him. Which is why he was under investigation after the race, because he did 2 pit stops in 2 laps. Because the first set there was a wheel rim failure, and then he had to come straight back into the pits because he was being investigated because they thought that he hadn't fitted the wheel properly. So they had to like run loads of data and stuff to make sure the wheel was on properly. But it was just a failure.
Okay.
Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo qualified either 15th or 16th. I can't remember. I think it was 16th. Just behind Norris, had an issue with his DRS again, and just kind of like gradually worked his way up in the sprint and then gradually worked his way up in the race. I think 9th place was kind of, they were never going to get past the Haas's because they had too much straight line speed. He was never going to be ahead of Norris by a strange strategy. So I think that's kind of like the best he could have hoped for. Still not great, but it wasn't a horrific race for Ricciardo. Not a glorious return to form like I put in the prediction, but it was enough to say this guy isn't wasting a seat. He's kind of like, it's a Guan Yu Zhou level of performance. It's a Guan Yu Zhou level of performance.
Wasting a seat, absolutely wasting a seat. But we'll go back there. Well, a man who's not wasting a seat at the moment and deserves to be where it's Kevin Magnussen. Not as good as his teammates. That's the second time in a row he's not been. But I still think he's showing his strong performance and he's battling in there. So I think K-Mag did a very good job and some great battles as well.
Yeah, second double points finish for Haas in a row. And that's like the best run of form pretty much in their entire history, which is cool.
As Haas.
Yeah. Yes. Well, yeah, that team came in as Haas. So that's the only thing that team's ever been. Lando Norris, my boy. Again, 7th place, probably. I think he could have potentially got 6th, but he was having brake problems in qualifying, and then had other issues in the sprint.
Yeah, he was not happy with that car, was he?
No, and made his way up to 7th. Potentially could have had 6th. Slow pit stop again. A couple of little errors. 5-second penalty for track limits, like a lot of people. 7th place, again, 6th I think would have been his optimum, but that's not a bad return.
And so Mickey Schumacher, proving that he might have some of his father's spirit in him. Maybe his father's died and we didn't know about it. And he's now got the spirit of Mick Schumacher. In him. We wouldn't know even if he died or he could be dead for years ago. Anyway, Mickey Schumacher.
Just like the Queen. The Queen's been dead for 6 months, apparently, if you believe the conspiracy theories.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're just rolling her out. What are they rolling out at the...
Well, they reckon that at the Jubilee, that was all CGI. Apparently.
Right.
Even though she was in person.
Right. Strange people. I'm only joking about the Mick Schumacher thing. No, he's doing well. Although it is mad that at the speed of this lap, that when you're in 6th place, you're still a lap behind.
Yeah, I said on Grid Talk he was the last driver on the lead lap, but he wasn't. He got lapped right at the end. So yeah, but even so, that's a strong performance considering there were no safety cars. Yes, it was a VSC, but no safety cars, and that Haas finished on the lead lap. We very rarely said that last year, and not only did it finish on the lead lap, it finished 6th, and he had the pace over his teammate all weekend. Magnussen did have an engine problem pretty much all weekend, and he was nursing through. But even so, Mick's shown some strong performance there. Esteban Ocon, very strong, very very strong performance. I mean, Alonso getting
But
all the
this
bad
is
luck.
typical Ocon.
Yeah, it just Alonso got the bad luck again, and Ocon brought the car home. He's scored some decent points at the championship. He's the reason why they're level with McLaren on points now. Alonso's the one letting the team down, but again, that's not down to performance. Generally, that's just down to mostly luck. And I know it was in the end it was a technical issue, but I was laughing my head off at the sprint when Alonso was sitting on the grid with his tyre warmers on. I thought, have they just forgot to take those things off? I genuinely thought they just forgot to take the things off, but they couldn't fire it up, so they left the tyre warmers on in case they could fire it up in the garage. Then they'd have nice hot tyres when he started. So,
but they're gonna, But they're gone next year, aren't they? Tyre warmers, or is it 2 years' time?
Not next year. I think it's a couple of years, 2 or 3 years' time, but they're working towards it. So they'll gradually reduce the temperature of the tyre blankets every year until we get to the point where they're banned. And I've been calling for this for years. This is something. See, American listeners, if you stayed with us, if you haven't completely unsubscribed, this is what IndyCar do well. No tyre warmers in IndyCar, and when you come, you see people going for the undercut, and then the first lap out of the pits, they're squirming around trying to build tyre temperature. So then people tend to do the overcut to try and maintain position, stay out as long as possible. But then that leads to other strategy decisions as well, because then when they do that, then all of a sudden they've got the guy on hot tyres coming behind them, and then they've got to come out on cold tyres and try and stay ahead of him. So it adds loads of dynamics, and it puts it back in the element of driver skill. Always just driving out the pits on perfectly heated tyres. It's just putting more skill into it. So I'm all for it. Get rid of tyre blankets. Well done, IndyCar. You're doing that right.
Well, someone that lacks skill and still somehow manages to get fourth is George Russell. We're still here. I don't know how he managed it. I just literally have no idea.
We know.
I don't even know how he got there. I think it was more luck than judgment. Because I literally have no idea. I don't think he's special. I really don't.
So
you've got Lewis Hamilton.
He had his incident with Perez, obviously. He was at the back of the field, made his first stop, and then went long, and then made the second stop. Actually in time, so he did a more conventional 2-stop, whereas a lot of people were going for a 1-stop then converted to a 2 because they didn't want to run out of tyres. So because he had the conventional 2-stop, that meant that he was able to jump a few cars, plus also that timed him well with the VSC, and that put him up on the back of Hamilton. Well, not the back of Hamilton, but within 15 seconds of Hamilton, so 19 seconds of Hamilton, sorry. So but I mean, to be fair, with George's race, the 5-second penalty for the collision, that didn't really ruin his race. What ruined his race was the collision. Because where he collided with Perez, he broke his front end fence, was causing a bit of a train behind him, which was also hurting Hamilton, because Hamilton couldn't get past the Hasses because they're all in a big DRS train queue. And then when he made his pit stop, it was long because they had to change the front wing and then also add on 5 seconds. So he only lost 5 seconds because of that, and he was still at the back. He would have been at the back anyway. So the 5-second penalty didn't actually affect his race. It was the broken wing that affected his race. So
Jesus, that's more than I ever wanted to talk about or listen to about George Russell. Move on to Hamilton before I kill myself.
Solid race again. Those early stages, looking after the tyres. No, he couldn't get past the Hasses because of he tried it in the sprint, wasted loads of tyres, wasted loads of time. So he just nursed his tyres through those early stages. Once people started boxing, or started pushing out the gap, he started pushing on the tyres, got past the Hasses, and then they boxed, and then he was able to go long on the tyres and potentially go to the 1-stop. But then with the VSC, it then became a bit of a no-brainer to convert to a 2-stop. So that's what he did. But distant third place was never really going to be any higher than that. But maximised.
I still think it was a great drive. I thought it was a great drive.
It was a great drive.
Driving skill that we saw from him was amazing. There's some
I'm just gutted that both him and Russell crashed, because they both looked like that Mercedes looked like it was going to challenge for 3rd and 4th on the grid, and you just don't know what they could have done had they started there. If Hamilton hadn't lost all that time in the traffic, could he have been closer? He probably lost 15-20 seconds at least being boxed in behind those Hasses, and when his finish time is 35 seconds off Verstappen, could he have made that difference? Could he have been in that? Could he have been in that pit window so that Verstappen couldn't have made that early stop? I'll ask you that question because you're talking about Max now.
What was the question? Yeah, Max. I mean, well, it's another solid drive. But that car is fast. But it was interesting that Leclerc said that he could grab Verstappen, and he did. And that I don't think that car was. There was something weird about it that when the tires went off in the second half of that race, they went off really badly. He just could not keep up. And it just felt like the tires were gone completely. I don't know what was really the story there. I mean, even when Leclerc was complaining about, well, had a throttle issue, he still couldn't catch up really. He was catching up about 0.3, if you're lucky, per lap, and it just wasn't enough. Whether that car was very heavy on those tires, I don't know. I think the Ferrari is probably lighter, and that may have helped, but I don't know what was going on.
The Ferraris definitely had better
deg. Happy.
The Ferraris definitely had better deg this weekend for whatever reason, because they normally have worse deg. But they started off the stint, and Leclerc noticed in the sprint, if him and Sainz hadn't been fighting in the sprint, then the time they lost fighting, that would have been Leclerc right up the back of Verstappen at the end of the sprint. So I think they potentially lost a point there by doing that. And oh, sorry, I'm yawning. Oh, sorry, terrible, really, really rude. I apologise. And but because of that degradation, once Verstappen pushed early to break the DRS, and then Leclerc kind of reeled him back in. By that point, the tyres they could pass their best. Leclerc still had loads of tyres left, and then I think a one stop would have worked. I genuinely think a one stop would have worked, but with the VSC, with Sainz, and
there's too much of a risk not to take it, isn't it?
And I think given that because that was the third stop, they went to the second stop. They had Verstappen covered, but they had the pit stop gap, and they just didn't want, if there was a safety car, Verstappen was in, and then all of a sudden, they've got Verstappen behind them on softer tyres. So it kind of made sense. I think if Verstappen had been closer, then they would have made the one stop work. But given he was so far behind, it was a no-brainer to switch to a two stop, because it was the safest option, and it just covered all bases. And then when the VSC came out, it just kind of was a no-brainer just to go for the third stop, just to put on the soft tyres, because we were that close to
Still managed to get the fastest lap for Verstappen.
Yes, he did. He was pushing at the end, wasn't he? Because he boxed for softs.
No, he did have the tyres. That's the thing.
Yeah, at the end he did, because with the VSC, because of Sainz's retirement, that meant he had new tyres. But I do think that it would have been interesting had Sainz not broken down, because with the issues that Leclerc was having, Sainz would have been right on the back of him. But because Sainz hadn't retired, there wouldn't have been a VSC. Verstappen wouldn't have had fresh tyres, so he wouldn't have been able to pull up to them anyway. So I think in that scenario, Ferrari say formation fly. They just bring it home together. And I imagine that would have been a difficult conversation. Sainz would have been, come on, my car's fine. He's got an issue. Let me go past him. I can win this race. But I reckon Ferrari would have said stay behind him.
Yeah, same.
Which would have sucked. Which would have sucked for Sainz. So in some ways, it's probably better that he's retired, so he hasn't got that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's feeling that. I think he'd rather have the second than the.
Charlie Leclerc, phenomenal performance. Brilliant drive, dominated the race, would have won by country mile had it not been for Sainz's retirement and his issue at the end. Managed it brilliantly. It sounds like he was driving with 20% throttle on all the time, which is just scary. So his braking would have been heavily impacted. So yeah, brilliant performance. I thought he might have lost.
But he was lifting his throttle up with the top of his foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant, solid drive. Absolutely solid drive. So that is your top 20. So that means that in the driver standings now, it is Max Verstappen 208 points. Leclerc's only closed in 6 points due to the sprint race. Perez now third, well, was third anyway, with 151 points. In fact, no, he was second because Leclerc's passed him. Carlos Sainz 133 points, George Russell 128, Hamilton 109. So George Russell has still pulled away from Hamilton because he got more points in the sprint. Lando Norris 64, Esteban Ocon 52, Valtteri Bottas 46, and then Fernando Alonso into the top 10 was in top 10 anyway with 29. With other notable changes there, Mick Schumacher's jumped up to 15th place with 12 points. He's moved ahead of Tsunoda and Zhou in one fell swoop, and now he's just 3 points behind Vettel. And Daniel Ricciardo only 5 points up the road.
Oh,
yeah,
that would be awkward.
Stroll now bottom of the don't worry about Latifi table with 3 points. Stroll is the only driver apart from Latifi. Well, he's the lowest driver. Even Albon's ahead of him with the same amount of points. So Albon has had more higher finishes than Stroll.
Yeah,
he's had on countback, which in that car is just insane. Which is why I think that Aston Martin are going to finish bottom.
Because they're too stubborn. They're like my wife, stubborn.
Well, they're going to go with this new concept, and then it's not going to work, and then they're going to we'll just sack the season off, and then we'll go again next year like they did last year, and as a result of that, they'll just keep plummeting. 359 points for Red Bull
they
now.
won't get rid of Stroll. If they got rid of Stroll and put a decent driver in, I think that might help them.
Oh, I saw an article which I'm
Can you
very
imagine?
ashamed.
When's that awkward conversation going to have to happen?
I had this. I saw this article which I stupidly clicked on. It was massive clickbait. It was on The Judge, which is a terribly unorthodox Formula One website. It just leaks loads of really shit stories, and it said Lawrence Stroll says, "Sorry, son, I'm going to have to drop you from the team," or something. And I was like, well, I don't believe this website, but I'll read the article anyway. And then I read the article, and it was basically an interview with Johnny Herbert, where Johnny Herbert said, if I were Stroll, I would say to my son, sorry, your time's up. It's like, Stroll never said it. Stroll never said it. Johnny Herbert said, if I were Stroll, that's what I would say.
If I was Stroll. Okay, right, either way. But can you, at what point do you get rid of him? Can you get rid of your own son?
You can.
You've got to be business minded. Let's be honest. Lance Stroll is a very clever businessman because you wouldn't own Aston Martin if you. Because you wouldn't own Aston Martin if you were.
Yeah, and Tommy Hilfiger.
He's got. It's Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah.
Who dressed Mercedes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's got to be a bit of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, he's been involved in F1 for donkey's years.
Yeah,
he owns Tommy Hilfiger. In fact, he may have even started it.
Anyway.
So I do my drinking noise for Laura. I know she likes it.
Yeah, but she's not on today, so I don't know who you're doing it for. She's currently driving back from Cork, and so I don't quite know at what point Lawrence Stroll turns around to Lance Stroll and goes, "You're not good enough. Now fuck off," because he's going to have to at some point. You can't stay in that position just losing money. It's not the there's other series to go and do that in.
He doesn't seem interested either. Lance doesn't seem interested. But I do think that Lawrence Stroll is now considering selling up, and I think Porsche might come in and buy the team off him. Porsche or Audi.
No, Porsche's already signed up to Red Bull. So it's going to be out. They're all the same company.
I know they're the same company, but
Porsche's definitely Red Bull.
They've got the same. They're the same company. They got the same company, but they have completely different racing teams. Porsche and Audi both compete in Formula E, and they've both competed in WEC against each other as well. So they're both looking to come in. Yeah. So whoever it is, Porsche or Audi.
Porsche is Red Bull, definitely, because he was in the pit. The Mr. Porsche man.
I know that Porsche wants to partner. Porsche wants to partner with a team. Audi want to buy a team.
Well, that makes more sense then, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Audi then.
But then, do they change to an Audi team?
Yeah.
Straight outright?
Well, Aston Martin apparently are going through. Aston Martin are going through financial issues. They're trying to secure more backers. It's just losing money.
Well, yeah, of course they are. I mean, that car company's been losing money for years. They thought this was the cash cow that, They thought that Lawrence Stroll coming and buying them and would help, but it just hasn't. And Lawrence Stroll has done a stupid because Aston Martin is going in the same way as TVR and everything else of all British supercar manufacturers. They're not anything special. And Aston Martin needs to be brought out by Land Rover, whatever, Jaguar or someone like that. Someone like that. That's who they need to be brought out by, or GM Motors. They can't stay as an independent company in that sense anymore, and they don't have the power. And who's buying an Aston Martin?
I do
who's
think
buying them. No one.
If the F1 team was doing better, I think it would directly impact the sales of Aston Martins. I think
who's buying an Aston Martin when you could go? I love an Aston Martin. I would love an Aston Martin. Please don't get me wrong, but who's going to buy that when you've now got Urus 4x4 and Lamborghini one? If you've got that much money, you're not going to go and buy the DBX.
Their business model is based on supercars and track cars, but they're so expensive. You could just go and get a Ferrari or a McLaren.
Yeah.
Or
why wouldn't you?
Or there's various other ones you can get as well, but you would just get them instead because they're cheaper and better.
Yeah.
It's just I just think that Lawrence Stroll with this he's just not. I think he's bitten off more than he can chew with this whole branded thing. He's tried to create the British Ferrari, which I respect, but I think he'll just end up selling up, and then that'll be Lance Stroll out of the sport if that happens. I can't see anyone else taking him on.
No. I mean, that would be the first thing that would happen, wouldn't it? It would be, right, who's our drivers? Vettel, multi-champion, who's still all right, but not great, keeps spinning off. Again, spun off this week. Stroll doing Stroll things. You would question, like, how much longer Lance is in this. I don't think it's that much longer.
Yeah.
Maybe another year if you're lucky.
So how did you see the Perez incident then? Because I think we may have slightly differing opinions in true Monkeyseat fashion.
As in how he got his
Perez Russell.
I'm just trying to remember it. What happened?
He went around the outside of turn 4. They collided.
Oh, this was the whole. It was the same thing that happened a number of times with a number of different people, didn't it? And whether they should have got penalties or not. So Perez was on the outside going round, and then like the question is who's ahead and who isn't, and where do you go? Bearing in mind those cars do not turn as you expect any other normal car to turn. It's not like they can just, so if they're going wide, they have to go wide, they can't just turn it in on the spin of a dime, so if you're on the outside, you're going on the inside in theory of that corner. If you're on the inside, you're going on the outside of that corner. So where that's always going to happen on that corner. You're always going to Perez was ahead, which in theory, in my mind, Russell should have allowed space. But I know that that's not as easy as it sounds like it should be. And where else could he have gone? That car would have only turned so far in to get out of his way.
Well, there's plenty of room for two cars to get through there. As we saw at other times in the race, people were making passes there. It is a pinch point. It's a place where you do tend to get incidents quite a lot. But Russell had space to his inside, but you never take that close to the apex, that corner. You always understeering because you're going downhill and away from the corner at that time, so you always got to understeer out. Perez, again, like Albon against Hamilton in 2020, he had space to his left. We saw other drivers go around the outside and have the car right up on the curb at that point. Perez had about half a car width between the curb and him, and then he goes past Russell and then cuts across the front of him. And for me, like, if this is Formula Tom, that's a racing incident and it isn't punished, and we just carry on. But it's not. It's Formula One. Formula Tom is shit. No one goes to see it. It went bust because it criticised IndyCar drivers and then got cancelled on Twitter. But in actual Formula One, I think in that situation, with the way the rules are now, if you're ahead at the apex, the other car has to give you room. How much room? Because he gave Perez room, but Perez came across him. But given that he is the car in front, the responsibility to avoid the collision sits firmly in Russell's hands, in my opinion. So I think with the way the rules are at the moment, that has to be a penalty for Russell, unfortunately. But I think it's. I mean, you just look. There's precedent there. You got Pierre Gasly, same thing. Yeah. The same thing with Hamilton and Albon back in 2020. I said at the time I thought it was a racing incident. Bez was on the podcast, like, vociferously saying that Hamilton's a sore loser and as only Bez can do. And but it for me it was still a racing incident, that incident, but it was penalised. And it was penalised, and they gave a reason for it. And I stand by that reason. If that's how they're going to police it correctly, then fine, as long as it's consistent. And it is consistent. If there is a collision there, they generally penalise the car on the inside. So I'm sorry, I think that's kind of the right decision. The other thing I'd say though is that given that George had damage and lost pace because of it, maybe the punishment was the damage that he received. Maybe the 5-second penalty was fairly irrelevant. And maybe if he'd have pitted straight away, they probably wouldn't have done anything because both cars had a
punishment. The 5-second penalty was a bit irrelevant anyway because Paris didn't, gain from it. That's what I always find about these 5-second penalties is, and Norris had one as well. They don't gain from it,
No, so the whole point of the penalties system, from what I understand, and I think this is the right way to go about it, to be honest, is when you've got incidents on track, if somebody is to blame, then that person receives a penalty appropriate to their level of indiscretion. The result is irrelevant. So if you make a tiny little touch on somebody and then that person is unable to control the car and then hits a wall and retires from the race, that doesn't mean that the other car should retire from the race as well to make it even, just because the other car wasn't able to keep control. And even if it's not a driver error, if somebody does an absolute dive bomb and then a person jumps out of the way to avoid a collision, there's no collision there, but the person who did the dive bomb should still get a penalty for dangerous driving. So the result doesn't necessarily have to reflect the penalty.
The penalty and the result don't.
The penalty should be consistent with the offence, not with the result of the offence, which is again what I was saying about I hate to bring this back up again, but the whole Silverstone crash with Hamilton and Verstappen last year. If you're going to blame somebody, again, I stand by on this one. For me, racing incident. If you're going to blame somebody, you have to blame Hamilton. But even a 10-second penalty for me seemed harsh because it was a 5-second penalty incident. But because of the emotion of the huge crash that followed, then that made the FIA feel like they had to give something stronger. So the 10-second penalty they believed would be enough to make sure he didn't win the race.
Did you see this? That Michael Massey has left the FIA.
Yes, I did see that today. He's officially gone.
I was like, so what's he been doing all this time?
He moved to another role.
Yeah. Can someone tell me what the other role is? Anyone know? What the fuck has he been doing?
He was selling sunglasses.
He might as well have been. Because no one has a fucking clue what this other role in. No, he's been on gardening and they weren't sure what to do with him. And they've now decided they can't keep paying for his bills to be sat there for the next 6 months because they don't have a role for him. So, off you go to Australia. We'll give you a good lump sum to feck off to Australia and go and live your best life. And that's what's really happened. Michael Massey is walking out there with a golden smile on his face. He now doesn't have to work, have the pressure, and has a fuckload of money from it.
My second least favourite Kiwi at the moment.
He's living in Australia, supposedly.
Yeah, but he's a Kiwi.
He's a New Zealander. Yeah. Why is he going to Australia?
Yeah. As I said, my second most favourite New Zealander right now. Have you heard the Piastri rumours?
That he's now coming in for Ricardo.
Yes. So you have
because he hasn't signed the deal for Williams, which is the rumored one.
Mark Webber is his agent, and he said that he's not going to Williams, and he wants to get him in the McLaren.
Oh, see, I haven't heard that. I didn't hear that he's not going to Williams. I've heard he's not signed the contract with Williams because they're holding out on the McLaren one, and they're literally waiting to see how much longer how much rope they can give Ricciardo to hang himself with.
Yeah.
Because, I can't imagine how that's gonna, Piastri's just waiting.
I can't see how it can work. What? Unless they've found a way to get out of their deal with Alpine and that they're signing for McLaren. Because I can't see Alpine loaning their biggest, hottest young property to their biggest rival in the championship. And I can't see them letting him go either. So I just think they would find a place for him. I think it's in the concept that they have to get him into Formula 1 next year or they lose him. Because Lando Norris had a similar situation when he signed for McLaren. So he was either going to be a free agent and probably would have signed for Red Bull and AlphaTauri unless McLaren put him in the car. And then when Fernando Alonso announced he was retiring, they announced that Lando Norris was going to be coming in. And now here is Alonso, 4 years later, still in Formula 1. There we go. And so I think...
enjoying his retirement.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if he ended up in the McLaren, and if he did, it'd be interesting to see what that scenario would be as to.
So who goes into Williams?
Well, would Ricciardo go to Williams? It's one of the few teams he.
As this place.
It's one of the few teams he hasn't.
It's one of the teams he hasn't pissed off yet.
Well, it's one of the few teams he hasn't raced for in Formula 1. I can see Vettel going to Williams, So maybe Ricciardo goes to Aston Martin.
Again, another team he hasn't pissed off yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe that's where it all I think in the mid-season we should do a prediction for drivers for next year.
We're not far off it. We're
at the halfway point. We could even do it tonight if you wanted. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see.
How it goes I've got to crack on tonight. Yeah.
We'll see how it goes time-wise. We're still early days. We'll see how we get on. It's only 8:00. Cool. So the track limits then. I've heard varying people talk about this. What is your thoughts on these new hard and fast rules for track limits, which led to loads of penalties, loads of warnings, loads of lap deletions?
Well, I've been chatting about this for fucking ages. Why do we not do the whole track of track limits? And it seemingly this was almost the whole track of track limits, at least quite a few corners that were troublemakers. It's I think it's great. I think it's like people are going to say it's a bit of a farce, but then don't leave the track. The track is the track. Get over it, And then Verstappen going, "Oh, we can't see the line." Well, that's not your problem. Just because I see the line when I'm or a speed camera when I'm speeding doesn't mean that it actually doesn't exist.
Just on that as well.
Crack on.
We actually agree. We actually agree with each other on this. When you're coming up to a traffic light, you can't see the line at the traffic light, but you still stop at it. So yes, you can't see the line with the cars, but unless you're Alex Albon, you know how wide your car is. So you just aim it. And at the end of the day, if you're taking the reason it's a problem here is because you've got so many fast corners. So they're taking these fast corners and they're trying to judge where the car is. They can't see where the line is. So don't put so much into the corner then, Just leave a little bit of margin.
They're saying they can't see it, yeah. They're saying they can't see it and they just have to then go wider. Well, grand, go wider then.
And they get a penalty.
Like what? Yeah, it's either you either go over and get a penalty, or you go, oh, hang on, my wind mirror. I can see if I look down, my wind mirror plus a few inches. Yeah. That's where the end of the track is.
It's all about reference points. Come on, you learn this when you're learning to drive. For Christ's sake, best drivers in the world, they can't figure out where the edge of a track is. It's rubbish. I would much rather that they did this. And this is what, when I used to watch football, this is one thing that always used to annoy me. They bring out a whole raft of new rules at the start of the season. The first 3 games
Don't
of the
worry,
season...
we get Hawkeye too. We'll get Hawkeye for
the first 3 games of the season, there'd be a glut of red cards, and everyone would talk about how it's ruining the game. And then the next couple of games, there'd be no red cards because everyone's adapted to the new rules. And then they'll go and change the rules and say, "Oh no, we're going to relax that now because there's been too many complaints." But it's like, just stick to it. And I really hope they stick to their guns here. The white line is the edge of the track. If you go outside that line, then your lap time is deleted. If you do it in the race and you don't gain an advantage, then you can just get a ticking off. Or if you go wide because you've made a mistake or whatever, you lose loads of time, you can just ignore that because you've lost loads of time. But if you're constantly going off the track limits, then yes, tot it up. Three times you get a black and white flag. The 4th time it's a penalty, and it's the same for everyone. You can't go down this whole, well, he didn't gain an advantage, and it becomes subjective, and you're not sure whether someone's going to get penalised or not. It should be absolutely black and white. He's gone over the line, he gets a penalty. Simple as that.
But it should be related to the whole track, not just one corner.
Oh yeah, no, it is the whole track. It is the whole track.
No, well, it seems like in qualifying, it's only ever one corner.
Yeah, in qualifying, they were monitoring a couple of ones automated. So those corners had cameras on them, and if the car went outside, they knew instantly, and they instantly deleted the track, the lap time. What happened with Perez was he went wide at a corner that wasn't being monitored so strongly, so they had to investigate it after the session, found that he was in breach, and then retrospectively deleted his lap time, which is... Yeah. It is like unprecedented in Formula 1 to retrospectively delete someone's lap time after a qualifying session. But so long as they stick with that, again, I'm fine with that. Yeah. People shouldn't think they can get away with something. So if you're caught doing it, then you get penalised. You get penalised retrospectively. Fine with that. It's the same for everyone. No one gets away with anything. It's the same for everyone. Yeah, just don't do it.
Everyone was getting it. It wasn't like there was people that weren't getting it because of who they were. There was no favoritism going on.
Absolutely.
And it was what it was.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Do you know what? Do you know what? I have my lederhosen out. I can't see it because of the green screen. There you go. I have my lederhosen out ready for a Lando Norris win this weekend. But it didn't happen.
I don't know why you have a lederhosen, but yeah.
No. Proper, genuine Austrian lederhosen. They were ready to go for the Lando Norris win, but it didn't happen. So I was very disappointed. Very disappointed. But yeah, so what we got next? We have got, just looking at my calendar, we have got France next. Yes, we do have France.
In 2 weeks' time.
And then we have Hungary, and then it's the summer break.
Back to back.
Yeah. And also in France, just before France, we've got Saturday and Sunday, we've got IndyCars Iowa. We've got Toronto is this weekend as well. We've also got the New York E-Prix this weekend. And then we've got the London E-Prix coming up on the 30th of July. So much going on. We've got W Series. We've got W Series at France this weekend as well, so that should be good. Jamie Chadwick on an absolute tear at the moment. She's won every race this season so far, which I think is either 2 or 3. I think it's 3 races she's won, and she won the last 2 races of last year as well. So she's on an absolute tear. So it looks like it's going to be 3 wins from 3 championships and 3 for her, which is a bit disappointing, really, because it just shows that there's no advancement in talent. There's no advancement in talent at the moment in that series, and you'd think after a couple of seasons they would have been able to get up to a better level. I mean, Abby Pulling's done brilliantly. Alice Powell's still doing really well. Emma Kimmerline is exciting to watch. But beyond that, there's just not really any kind of more talent coming through, which is a bit of a shame. Similar to the F2 field. I think the F2 field is very limited this year. I don't think it's very strong at all.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame.
I watched a bit of the F2 this week.
I watched all of it, actually.
But none of it, even the top drivers, no one's exciting me. Like, I'm not like, oh my God, they need to be in Formula 1 next year.
Oh, did I tell you? I was in the F2 press conference.
What do you mean you were in the F2 press conference?
I was one of the, not the live one, I was one of the press.
I guess.
One of the press.
Really?
on the it was a Zoom call. They called it a round table event. So I was on that, and I was in there with Megan White from Autosport, and who else was there? somebody. What's her name? Hazel Southwell. Really good journalist. She was in there as well, and there's a couple of other people as well. But it was I did that because George Howson was invited to it, but he couldn't make it, so he asked me. He asked who could do it, so I said I could do it. So yeah, asked a few questions. I did something that I never do, which is I started asking my first question, and they're like, "Oh, you're on mute, Tom." Embarrassing. And I accidentally referred
Who
to
were you asking it to?
Felipe Drugovich. And I accidentally referred to F2 as F1 as well in one moment. Yay! So I'm not going to get invited back. But it was good fun, though. It was good fun. It was good fun.
Nice.
But I think I cursed it though, because both drivers that were in the press conference, it was him and Marina Sato, they both had really bad races. So I think I cursed them both.
We blame Tom.
Yeah,
you're going to be Rachel to Alonso.
Who?
Rachel. What's her name? Who's Rachel? Rachel, the
Rachel
F1
Brooks?
presenter.
Rachel Brooks.
Is it Rachel Brooks?
Yeah.
Alonso won't talk to Rachel Brooks before a race.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it's always bad luck.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, poor Rachel.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I know. God, Natalie Pinkham. She's going. I swear she's going mad.
I don't re-rate her anyway.
Yeah.
But there we go.
I swear she's going mad. Anyway, right.
Is that it? Have we got anything else? Oh,
yeah.
No. Predictions for France, quickly.
Go
on. Right, I need to get open the document that has our predictions in. What was our predictions for last time? Because you wrote, did you write them down in the diary? I'm just loading it up.
I think I did. Oh Jesus! Pressing buttons.
So, what do we? We'll go through them for the weekend. So
I've got them here.
Yeah. Okay.
Pole for Tom was Verstappen.
Wrong.
And
no,
for me was Hamilton.
Oh no, we said fastest in Q3, didn't we? Because pole was technically Verstappen.
Yeah. No, it was.
Yeah. Okay. And then win, I said Perez, didn't I, for win?
Win for Perez. Well, that didn't happen, and I had Verstappen.
Yeah.
You had Ricciardo's glorious return, and I had Norris in second.
Yeah.
So we did very badly.
Yeah, you got nothing, and I got. I can't remember what you said about whether it's fastest in Q3 or winner of the sprint. Because wasn't.
We said it was for pole.
Yeah. Or was Verstappen quickest in Q3, or was it Leclerc? I can't remember now.
We put it up front.
Do you know what?
But we said whoever the pole was. We said whoever pole was, as in whoever started the race. Max
Verstappen was quickest in qualifying, and he won the sprint race. So I got a point. Hey, I got 1 point for Verstappen on pole.
Yeah, no matter which role it was.
Yeah, that's fine. Right. Okay. So this time, I don't know what episode we're on now. Was it episode 81?
Episode 81.
Is it not episode 80? Oh, episode 81. Yeah. There we go. Wow, flying towards those triple figures. Okay, so pole. Have you got anyone for pole?
Signsy.
Signs. Right. Pole. Signs. I am going to go for George Russell.
Okay.
Win.
Because you're insane.
Yeah.
Win Leclerc.
Win Leclerc. Win for me, Lewis Hamilton.
We're
going big or going home.
And something big will be announced.
Something big will be. So you're talking like Porsche paired with Red Bull, or
either Porsche with Red Bull, or something big will be announced at Paul Ricard.
Big announcement. Okay. My hot take is Scott McLaughlin will never drive an F1.
No, because that's guaranteed.
There you go. Scott McLaughlin will never. There you go. That's my hot take.
Great.
We didn't do driver of the day and dick of the day. What do you reckon for driver and dick of the day?
Dick of the day was the Austrian fans.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Scott McLaughlin, you've been saved by not being dick of a day by the Austrian fans.
Yeah, because A, the flares, B, the racism, C, the applauding Hamilton having a crash. All wrong.
Also,
all need to be shot in the head.
D, the homophobia, and E, the misogyny.
Yes.
There was just so much. I heard a story about a woman had her dress lifted up by somebody just because somebody else was urinating and then was goading some Mercedes mechanics when they walked past, and it's just generally loutish behaviour in general. It's pretty shocking, really. It's
I mean, why those flares are allowed, I will never know.
I hate it. I went to now. I know this makes it immediately sound, because I'm saying where I went, I'm making it immediately sound like I'm blaming Dutch fans, and I'm not. I'm just saying generally the fans there. But I was once in Holland, and I went to a Dutch football game, and I went to Ajax versus Feyenoord, and just happened to be in Amsterdam, and there was flares being passed around there, and it was scary as hell, having those flares being passed around right next to your head. And the fans were just just loutish and just really, really abusive, really scary fans. And I've been to see Millwall play, so and West Ham. Not West Ham Millwall, fortunately. That would be crazy. But so that the fans definitely get dick of the day. For me, driver of the day, Charlie Leclerc. What have you got?
Probably Hamilton, actually. I thought he did a great race.
He did good. Drive. He did do good, to be fair to him. I think it's him, Alonso, Schumacher, maybe even Magnussen for driving.
I mean, Schumacher. Actually, Schumacher's a good driver.
Schumacher was the official driver of the day.
It's not a bad shout, though, is it?
He did do well. He did do very well.
And did some great overtakes. And, I wouldn't say, Potentially.
Anyway, we're gonna head off now because Carl wants to watch Love Island. So we'll see you all for the French Grand Prix.
See you later.
That's the wrong bumper.
Wrong one. Try again. There we go.
Me.
Who's our dick of the day?
Scott McLaughlin.
Scott McLaughlin.